Hello, and welcome back to the Futurism at JHU podcast. I'm your host, Nicholas, and today's a very unique episode. You're actually going to hear directly from me, no guests, no co hosts. And I wanted to go into my background, how Futurism was founded, our purpose and goals, and the future, and then also go into some tips for any of you out there who are interested in starting a podcast of your own. So, to start with some background, this actually was an idea that started in middle school. And it started in eighth grade. I watched this PBS special called The Brain with David Eagleman, and it absolutely blew my mind and inspired my love for neuroscience. And from there, I realized that I was super interested in science and technology and kind of the scientific developments that would shape humanity in the coming years and decades. And so I decided when I got to high school, I decided to start a science club. It was called the Future of Science, or FOSS. And FOS in Greece, or FOSS, stands for light. And I thought that was very symbolic. Like science and tech, can kind of be the light forward for humanity. But the future of science, or FOSS, was really a think tank in high school, and we would just sit down as a group and discuss cool stuff in science and neuroscience and technology, kind of like we do now at Futurism, and it kind of stayed that way throughout high school. We did some fun activities, like we did some like VR. We were playing like Beat Saber a lot, which is pretty fun. We did like a drone flying thing, but we actually ended up crashing the drone, which is a funny story. But we had like a bunch of cool activities. We attended the Society for Neuroscience conference in 2018, which is very cool. And we brought in a couple of guest speakers as well to come talk to the group. So overall, it was a pretty meaningful experience in high school, and I knew I wanted to continue it into college. So when I arrived at Hopkins, I was fully virtual freshman year, but I still wanted to start something. And I decided to kind of create kind of a different version of Future of Science, and I called it Futurism. At first, it was JHU Futurism. Now it's Futurism at JHU. And that was intentional because Futurism at JHU allows us to potentially create other chapters, which I'll kind of go into. But our goal, and kind of spilling the beans on our internal goals, but I think it's important to kind of inspire you people, those of you out there who want to start your own podcast. But we would like to create different chapters of Futurism at JHU. So we had a podcast that Ricardo recorded with the Alt Protein Project, and the Alt Protein Project has a parent organization, but it has chapters at universities throughout the United States. And there's a Johns Hopkins chapter and many other chapters. And so that's the ultimate goal for Futurism, is to expand beyond Hopkins, really create a community here, but then expand to, other schools throughout the US. Um, but yeah, so when I got to Hopkins, Futurism at JHU was born. Ricardo, co-founder and co-host, he was really there from the beginning. We kind of started it together. John, another co-host and co-founder, he joined on. Max, he was our audio engineer for a while. He joined on. And so it was really us four who started the podcast. And then we started bringing on more members. And it's funny because it really started, you know, sometimes you just have to start, right? You focus on just getting stuff out there, even if it's not the best quality, and just kind of creating this creation, kind of machine, and then kind of building from there. So we started recording on our phones actually, and that's why the first few episodes are not the best quality. It's definitely a noticeable difference from like right now with this mic versus our phones. And there's only so much you can do post production, and so Max edited a lot of those phone episodes, but it's still, not the best audio quality. But the point was, we still had very cool conversations and we got our content out there. And now we've kind of gradually progressed. We now have the studio here with the mic. We have our awesome team in the background. And we also are supported by the Center for Leadership Education. And they were gracious enough to support us in purchasing a podcasting kit. So we also have our own podcasting kit, in case members can't make studio times and just for that added flexibility. Um, and so, Futurism has really grown from this, you know, phone episodes, podcasts to, high quality audio and video episodes. And one thing to mention is it actually started as a think tank when it was virtual. And we realized that we were having these really cool conversations for the first couple semesters of, when Futurism started. And we realized that people could benefit from listening to this and maybe get inspired. After all, Hopkins is, a science and tech and STEM school, and it only makes sense that we would have a science and tech podcast, right? And we have the highly successful Hopkins podcast on foreign affairs. Shout out to you guys. You have an incredible podcast. Also, the What in the Health podcast, the Public Health podcast, which are also incredible. There's also the Hopkins Biotech podcast. So I'm just throwing out a few podcasts that exist that are really, really well done. And so we're kind of following in their footsteps and getting inspiration from them. But we also feel that at a science and tech school, there should be a science and tech podcast. And so we're kind of the primary podcast right now that's trying to really embody what Hopkins is all about. About thinking about the future and educating ourselves and really trying to move humanity forward in a positive way. So I'd like to kind of go through our website and different resources. So all of you out there know how to find us on Instagram, and if you're interested in joining, we have an interest form, and also how to access our Spotify and YouTube and Apple Podcasts and all of that. So I'd like to transition to our website, and so just pulling that up. So we have first of all, we have this link tree. So if you go on our Instagram, we have this link tree right here, linktree.futurism at JHU. If you click on that, it will take you to our link tree. This is basically our central page with all of our links. And so, on the top right now is the blog. This will take you to our Medium blog. We have different posts. So, for example, we have this recent one by Zach. What is humanity working towards? Really great article. Highly recommend reading it. We also have this interest form. So for those of you out there who are interested in joining Futurism, we have a brief description. I'll just run through it in case you're interested in hearing it. Futurism at JHU is a student-run podcast that discusses billion-dollar ideas in science and technology. As of spring 2023, we have discussed topics including artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, sustainability, neural networks, and bioethics. Our guest speakers have included a medtech CEO, a multimillionaire entrepreneur, a senior journalist for a prestigious news organization, and a medical student at Brown. The podcast is in the top 25% of globally shared podcasts on Spotify and has been heard in 11 plus countries. And follow and listen to the podcast here. So that's our Linktree link. And if you're interested in joining the podcast, please fill out this form. So just this very brief form, fill out your name, your email, grade, major, just explain why you're interested in futurism. Doesn't have to be much. But we kind of want people who are, really want to be here and really want to move the club forward. And you can also say which of the following areas you're interested in. So there's many different roles in a podcast, right? You don't have to be the host necessarily, or co-host, but that is an option. There's also post-production. You can help with audio and video engineering. You can help with marketing, so promoting the podcast and also updating our website. You can help with group finances, such as helping with fundraising, and you can be a writer, so you can help out with our blog posts on Medium and Blogspot. So that's the interest form. Fill it out if you're interested. Highly encourage you to join the podcast. Also have an Instagram, which I showed you. Not really gonna. I already kind of showed you that. We're doing a kind of a member spotlight right now. So me and John are up there for now, and there'll be more members to come. Let's go to Spotify now. So we're on Spotify. That's kind of our primary platform right now. If it will load. Let's see. Okay, here it is. So we have all our episodes up here. So that's our Spotify. We also have a YouTube. So if you want the video versions of the podcast, kind of like I don't know if you guys have watched Andrew Huberman, but I'm kind of pulling an Andrew Huberman right now. he does a lot of solo episodes where he basically rants for 2 or 3 hours, some very incredible content, and he also condenses it down on YouTube and Instagram. But yeah, so we have a YouTube here. So this is all the video versions. We have episodes like with our audio visualizer. So those were episodes that did not have video. So there's just an audio visualizer there. So you have something to look at. And then we have all our guest speaker episodes and video episodes that were recorded in the studio. So that's YouTube. Also have an Apple Podcasts. It's not opening, but okay, we'll go to TikTok. Sorry, but Apple Podcasts is there. You can click on that. We have a TikTok as well. These were little interviews that we did of people at the Student Involvement Fair, and we just asked them, name, major, what you're doing at Hopkins, and then also like, what's your hot take on the future? And it was essentially trying to get people's gauge on, if they're hopeful or kind of cynical about the future of humanity. And so there were some interesting responses there. So definitely encourage you to watch that. We also have a LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Not really going to go into those, but you can check us out there. And then we also have a website. So you can check this out. We're in the process of updating it, actually. We also have the link to our blog and our exec team. So me, Ricardo, and John. And so you can check us out there. And then we also have a blog spot. So this is very similar content to our Medium. So depending on if you like to read blogs on Medium or Blogspot, you can check us out there. So those are our resources. Go check us out. I think, please do follow us on any platform that you like to follow content on. We really appreciate it. And obviously, if you like the podcast, like feel free to leave likes, comments, good reviews. Kind of doing some shameless self promotion here. And also, there's the interest form if you want to join the group. So that was that. That was kind of our link tree and our resources. So you know where everything is. And just to kind of finish up the session, I wanted to go into some tips for those of you out there who want to start your own podcast. So first of all, I would say if you have this kind of inspiration that you want to start a podcast, it doesn't matter what subject it is. It doesn't matter, if you're starting with just your phone or you're starting with some nice equipment or, you're starting with just you or a couple people or a few people. I would really encourage you just to get started. I think that's the most important point, right? Is you have these ideas and in the end, it's all about executing on them. And so I would just really encourage you to, take that next brave step and just put yourself out there, be brave and, see where it takes you, right? You don't know until you try, right? You may be like, oh, this is not worth it. This is too much time, too much energy, too much effort. I'm not sure if people will like this. It doesn't matter, right? You're just putting yourself out there and trying something new. So that's the first thing. The second thing is like once you start getting content out there, just try to be, consistent and like putting yourself out there. The next thing would be to try to like upgrade your setup if you can, and obviously focusing on like audio first. We have our studio here, but then there's also like the digital media center, so you can always borrow equipment from them, or you can get trained to record in their audio studio. And so if you can find resources like that, then you can kind of upgrade your audio and create a better auditory experience for listeners. And then, of course, if you want to add video into it, we're kind of unique in that way because a lot of other podcasts don't really have video. They don't have the YouTube component. And so you can also think about adding that to the podcast. And then, of course, just like, doing lots of marketing. That's something that we're trying to work on, is like really getting ourselves out there. So, whether it's through Instagram or word of mouth, really trying to, promote the podcast and, get people to talk about it and think about it and make it something meaningful for people that people enjoy listening to and get a lot out of. So this was solo episode with your Futurism host, Nicholas. I hope you found that helpful. Those are just some thoughts on, how Futurism was founded, why it was founded, our resources and tips on how to start your own podcast. And again, encourage you to Follow us on all platforms and support us and spread the word. And I also encourage all of you to start your own, podcasts and ventures. And so again, hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next one.